What do hospitality, creativity, and excellence have in common? Besides being a recipe for a perfect day at Disney World, they also happen to be facets of God's character. In this episode of the Inspired Podcast, we're joined by Raina, Maria, and Jessica to talk about how, as image bearers of God, we also exhibit these characteristics. Even if we feel we're far from hospitable or creative, there's much to learn about how we connect to not only God in this way, but also create connections with other people. These three words also coincide with important things that we aim for at the upcoming Inspired Conference. Listen in on how you might begin to prepare your heart to come. Welcome back to the Inspired episode. We are now on season 6. We want to welcome you back. We've missed you, and we're just going to dive right in today. I'm joined by Raina and Maria, and so I'm just going to throw it to them to introduce themselves.
Hi.
Hello.
My name's Raina. I'm the Connections Director here at the church, and I love it. So if you come here, whatever it happens in the foyer, between the parkers, greeters, coffee, snacks, that's all stuff that I'm involved in. And
we love the snacks.
I just love making people feel welcome and that they feel special here and want to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Maria.
My job could not be more different than Raina's. My official title is the AVL engineer.
What does AVL stand for?
Audio, video, and lighting.
Okay.
So a lot of audio stuff. My job is a lot of audio stuff, and then all of the lights and stuff that you see on Sundays and all that. So I'm very much in the production world. Mm-hmm. So Raina is very out in the foyer and all those people, and I'm very much in the auditorium and barely leave the auditorium.
Yeah. So y'all cover, with the span of your job, you cover the whole building.
Pretty much. Well, except for kids.
Except for kids. We don't have Kayla here.
No. But we do some things for the kids too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And our jobs.
Yeah. So, and I'm Jessica, by the way. And last time we were together was season 5. We had 12 episodes. If you haven't listened to that season, you're going to want to go back to that. But then we had an Inspired Night back in the fall. And at that Inspired Night, we talked about hospitality and just kind of going into the holiday season. A lot of our life as women was probably marked by facets of hospitality. And so as we kind of gear up towards this upcoming conference, which, by the way, March 15th, sign up now. You're not going to want to miss it. But we're kind of taking this season of the podcast in preparing our hearts for the conference. And this can look a lot of different ways. But in the past, we've come out with devotionals, ways like certain emails that we would send to everybody that signed up. But we thought this might be a great way to just have a conversation around different aspects that we're going to be experiencing at the conference, and then also kind of give you a little sneak peek into what we're going to be doing at the conference, what the theme is, what we're going to be focusing on. And so today we're just going to talk about hospitality. We're tying it in from last fall. We're going to be talking about hospitality. So we have the perfect person here with Raina talking about that. We're going to talk about creativity and excellence, which is Maria's field, and also you. I mean, you are a highly creative person. And so there's no better people than to be talking about these subjects here at this table. But we, just to kind of kick us off, hospitality, creativity, and excellence are probably one of the bigger of the 3 pillars that we focus on leading into the Inspired Conference. So let's just start with hospitality, and we're going to be diving in deeper than just what it looks like to create environments. We're going to have some conversations about vulnerability and connection, which I really believe are the end goal and the end result and the goal of hospitality. So I'm going to kick it off to Raina. Raina has read, besides doing this day in and day out for your job, you've read so many different books. So maybe you can give us a few of those book titles that have impacted you in the area of hospitality. But just give us a little background of why you're passionate about creating environments for people.
I just think it's important when people step into a new church, they are probably nervous. I know they're nervous. They're worried about their kids and just what's going to happen. And is the coffee free? There's just so many random things that go in their head. And I want them to want to come back. I think that's my main goal, is that I just want people to want to come back. I want them to feel special when they're here. And just for whatever reason, they wake up Sunday morning and be like, I want to go back there.
Yeah.
Maybe even if they don't believe in Jesus, I want them to just be like, that's somewhere I want to go. And when you think about like shops you like to go to or restaurants you like to go to. A lot of it has to do with the feel. It's the environment. It's the way you're treated. It has nothing to do with service. You know, I tell people this story all the time, but like I love to do crafts, and there's a place that I prefer not to go shop at, even though they have lots of fun crafting things, because their bathrooms are gross. Like, that keeps me from going there. And you just don't know what's going to be that thing that just makes people want to come back. And we all have these barriers built up. We all have guards up, and it just makes us nervous to step into a new space. So I think that's my main goal, is I want people to want to come back. And we visited a lot of other churches to get ideas and just how we can improve. But I just feel like you have to expand your horizons. You have to think out of the box if you really want to take things to the next level. And so for me, it was like, I've told my servant leaders, like, if you go to a shop or a store or a restaurant or anywhere and you felt special or they did something over the top, I want to know about it, because I want to know if that's something that we can implement here in some way, shape, or form. Last year I read Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
I've heard you talk about that.
He's in the restaurant field, and I feel like everyone's sick of me talking about this book, but there were just so many great things in that book that we were able to apply to our Sundays that have made a huge impact. One of them, for example, is he talks about doing things impromptu, like finding ways to do things that seem just completely on the fly, you know, just that you just thought of it, but you're prepared for it. So like, what are those scenarios that come up a lot? And some of them for us, where people come and they say, we're new to the area, or we're expecting, and so we want to find a church. So to be prepared for those two scenarios, we actually have these little gift bags. So if someone comes as a first-time guest and they're expecting, we have a bag that we give them with like an ex-church onesie, a note from our next-gen pastor, some wipes, a tour, map of the building that says where our nursing mother's room is. And then we also have a fun little package if they're new to the area, with a coffee gift card, a local shop here in town that we all love, a note from Pastor Russ with some of his favorite places to go, just so even if they don't come back, they have some resources in their hands now that hopefully will make them feel special. And those are just some of the ideas that I got from that book that he was applying to restaurants, but we were able to apply here. And I just think it was really out of the box, and it's just really been successful, I think. So there's just so many ideas from that book. But I just got a new book. It's called Be Our Guest. I can't wait to dive into it. I'm going on vacation.
Does this have anything to do with Disney?
Yes. I'm actually going to Disney in a couple weeks, but I just bought this book and I can't wait to dive into it on the plane. But it is from the people behind the guest experience at Disney. So I can't wait to dive into that, because I think I'll have even more ideas.
I know. Well, this is my favorite thing, because I get the privilege of serving with Raina on Sundays. I kind of just always come up to her, what do you need? What needs to be done? What can I do? And I think that there's like several times that I've opened up a closet to go find something, and I see something like these expecting bags or these coffee cards to a local coffee shop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she literally thinks of everything. And which is so I just even observe, as an observer, it is so cool to see that that's your passion, and it comes out so much more naturally from you, to where someone might not be, you know, in the, like, they might not think like that. I don't think like that. But you do. And so it's just so cool to be able to be a part of your world, because you think about everything that people need. And like, even like the Inspire Conference, you were kind of head over just like the hospitality of that day. And like, we had all kinds of like feminine items in the bathroom that we don't normally have, and they were color coded. Like they matched our decor, like dental flossers, mints. I mean, just I know
shout wipes.
Yes, shout
Stain
wipes.
Are
there you go.
For a Sunday morning too.
And so I think that anytime I like seeing the world through Raina's eyes, because she sees things a lot differently, and I have a lot to learn. So,
Thank you.
Okay. So on your side, Maria, like, let's talk about creativity and excellence. And I mean, like we said, a pillar of what we aim for at the Inspired Conference. Why? Like, why is it important for you? Why do you have a passion for creativity and excellence, for people to see that?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's so much of what we do here is about excellence. And so everything that Raina does is that. So as it translates into the auditorium, I mean, the things that we think about, we want to think about, okay, what is the mood that we're trying to set when people are walking in? What's the playlist going to be like when people are walking in? Are we wanting it to be, you know, what do we want it to feel like in their spirit? Are they happy? Is this something that we want more reflective? Like, we talk about that a lot. And so for conference, it's going to be more of that. And then even thinking through from a technical aspect is, we want people to be able to have no distractions when they come in. We want people to get the information that they need to get through slides and graphics and all that stuff. But we also want things like lights and sound to bring people into worship, but not distract them from worship. So we want to point everything at Jesus. And so I love what we get to do. And thinking through even at the conference is just the flow is everything from a perspective of the women in our house, pointing them towards Jesus. And so, I mean, there's so many little things that people don't even think about, and so many hands that go into it to make sure that everything feels seamless, and people aren't like, oh wait, what's going on? Oh, why is that not okay? And they get distracted, and then all of a sudden they're not thinking about the moment that they just had with Jesus.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the distraction. So we want to take as much as we humanly can, any distraction off the table, and just allow God's Spirit to move through everything that we do.
Love that.
So you're also like on the creative team here at X Church, and so give us a little insight of like what about your job gives you energy, gives you life, and being a part of a team of people that you talked about. There's several components that go into like environments within the auditorium.
Yeah.
Talk about how those different things play in, and their creativity might look different than yours.
Oh yeah. I mean, how many people do we have? 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us, I think. And we tend to pull in other people for different types of things, depending on what we're doing, what our needs are. I mean, we have people that are doing graphics. We have people that are doing video. We have, I'm doing audio stuff, but we all kind of work things together. And the goal in everything that we do is to give people, I like to think of it as almost a window into what we're doing. So if you're on the outside looking in, you see us on social media, or you check out our website or whatever, we want to give people an idea of what the heart is of our church. And so sometimes that looks different. Like we were just talking about today, an event that we have coming up for kids. And so I'm thinking, okay, as a mom, what does that mean for me? What creative things would be something that would be eye-catching for me as a mom? And we do the same thing with conference too, of just, okay, as a woman, what is something that I need in this season of my life? And so I try to bring those types of things to those types of conversations, because some people just don't, that's just,
they're not a mom and they're not in your shoes, and
Right.
like you could bring insight to the table of
right. And so that's kind of, it's just everything is, it might come across like, oh, that was just this funny little thing, whatever. It's like, well, no, God has humor too. And so we want people to see that, no, we're not, we
don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, we don't have to be serious all the time, but then also there's a lot of deep spiritual depths. There's things that I see on our Instagram of just quotes and things that I'm like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And that's what we want. That's our heart, is to point people to Jesus, but also to show them a little bit of what it's going to be like if they come visit and build community.
Yeah, and it ends up, like we talked about in the intro, that these things are also facets of God's character. And so God is an excellent, perfect God. And we are not perfect, but we can strive for excellence in everything that we do, in every environment that we set. God is a creative God. I think that sometimes we leave this out of who God is as a creative being. I mean, he created us, and how unique are we?
Yeah.
All of us individuals.
He's very detail oriented.
Very detail oriented.
I love that about him.
Yeah, and then the heart of God. I mean, like the heartbeat of God is that we are reaching out to him for connection and relationship, because anybody who's been around church long enough can know that, yes, you can walk into some doors and you can go through the motions and you can do what other people are doing and you can read your Bible and you can pray. But unless there is an intentionality in the relationship and the connection with God, then we don't move or we don't transform. We don't continue to move towards him. And so I think that, like, especially with these two ladies on either side of the table, can experience God in those ways of the hospitality of God. Like, I'm pretty sure that because you have experienced the way that God relates to you, you have a passion to relate to other people in that way. So I think that the end goal and the end result of all three of these things, whether it's excellence or creativity or hospitality, is a connection with people. Because we not only can connect with God in that way, but we can connect with each other in that way. So let's peel back the layers a little bit. This is what we do at X Church. This is what we have planned for the conference. But more than that, what does it look like in our day-to-day lives to encounter hospitality and encounter creativity and excellence?
For me, it's a little bit of a challenge. I am an introvert, which I think some people don't realize that, because on a Sunday, I'm right in the middle of the foyer.
Yep.
And I am going up to people, but I'm stepping out of my comfort zone for sure. And I think it takes that bold step, but I think that comes from God, that confidence to point someone out to me, be like, you need to connect with that person. And I've never once gone up to someone, even if they look at me and they're like, no, I'm good, I don't need anything. I've never gone up to someone and been like, hey, is there something I can help you with? Where I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've never regretted it.
That's
even
good.
though I felt scared or I felt it was awkward or whatever, and it probably was awkward. And I always forget to wear my name badge on Sunday. So people don't know I'm on staff. They're just a random person to them. But to walk up to someone and be like, hey, did you need something I can help you with, is really out of my comfort zone. But I just trust that God's pointing the right people to me, the people that I need to connect with. And never have I walked away going, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's always turned into something amazing, whether they had a really intentional question, or they had a really valid concern, or whatever it is, or they just need to find the bathroom. You just don't know. And so I just trust that God's going to point those people out to me on a Sunday, and I need to step out of my comfort zone and be hospitable towards them, even though I want to just go upstairs and sit at my desk.
Yeah.
So.
I think one of the misconceptions is, especially within church. So let's talk about staff first. People assume you're on staff at a church, you have it all together, you must have a special connection to God or whatever, or you must have really special friends and you just do life with them and all of that. And then there's also, if we widen the circle, we can so often come into a church on Sunday and we see people exchanging greetings, smiling, whatever, and assume that everybody already has a connection.
Yeah.
And I think what you're pointing out was that it's outside of your comfort zone. And I think that it's outside of my comfort zone, and I'm pretty sure it's outside of your comfort zone to just walk up to someone and have the heart and the hospitality to have the boldness to go up to someone. And because that is, that's kind of putting yourself out there, and that's really scary.
It is hard.
But I think that we forget that the end result in that is not that we're so much helping other people as much as ourselves.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I never return from a conversation like that and be like, I wish I would have never introduced myself to them. Right.
Right.
Even if it's just a person that you might not make a life connection with. I just think it's so important for people to feel seen. And I think that a big part of hospitality is about helping
100%.
people feel seen.
Yeah.
I think that I've recently been on a certification process for something called spiritual direction, and that spiritual direction, if you've never heard of it, you might want to look it up, but it's a fancy way of saying you listen to people's stories. And as I've had the opportunity to do that more and more, and not coming alongside people to fix or to offer advice, but just to listen, there is a holy connection that happens when you open yourself up to listen and just be available.
We see that actually. We have this space called The Landing. It's where all our first-time guests go. And I see it every weekend. It's so interesting. People come in for the first time. They share a little bit of their story, what brought them here, who introduced them, or who invited them. And then they come back week after week looking for that person that they connected with. Hey, is Amy here? Is so-and-so here? Because they made a connection with that person, and that's that one person in this big foyer that they now know. And it just starts with that, and hopefully it just spreads from there. But yeah, once you kind of share your story or tell a little bit about yourself to someone, and there's a connection there.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen without. Okay, so we've got the environment's perspective, but then we have the individual. So we can be hospitable within an environment, but then there's also another layer of that. We have to also choose to be hospitable within our attitude and our hearts and the way that we approach people. And that could even mean as simple as something like a smile. I mean, because I stand on the outskirts of the foyer every week and I might talk to a few people, but I make sure that if someone's passing by me and I make eye contact with them, that I'm smiling, because we all know what it's like to walk past someone and not get a smile and be like, oh my gosh, they must be really mad at me. They must hate me or whatever.
Even though they didn't really even see you. They
No.
were thinking
Right.
about 10
Yes,
other things.
Yeah. Well, we take it so personally.
We do.
Yeah.
So tell me about creativity, excellence, what that looks like. I mean, like you chime into, you are, you love painting. You are a craft queen.
Yes.
And I know that like you were talking about like motherhood. I'm really interested in hearing you talk about creativity and motherhood.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, when I think about creativity, I don't always I see somebody like Raina and I'm like, she's creative, and I can name all these different things that she does that's creative.
Yeah.
And me, I am not typically one that's going to be crafting in my free time or anything like that. My mom is more that way.
Scrapbooking.
Yes, and like knitting and all these things. My mom,
Knitting.
she's
I
like
went
just
through that
sits
phase. Yep.
and just dreams all the time of different things. And for me, I have learned that I need to be creative in my intentionality with my kids. I have 2 boys. They are so different. Their personalities could not be more opposite.
How old are they?
They are 4 and 5.
Okay.
So they're very close in age, and they were raised by the same people, and they could not be more different. And so it's trying to figure out, okay, how do I connect with this child? Like, I want to connect with them each. I want them to grow up to be well-rounded individuals. And I feel like my friend Kayla always says, like, I'm raising adults. I'm not raising children. I'm like, so how do I do that? How do I see the little things in them that they don't even realize what they're going to become one day, but I can see their potential. So learning how to help them build up their own confidence, but also helping them, I try to get creative with, okay, this kid likes these types of things. How do I help him flourish in that area? This kid likes this. And even in things like discipline, what works with one kid doesn't work with the other. And
what works now might not work in a month from now.
Exactly.
Depending on their
Lord,
interests
yes.
and
Yes. And so they're always changing. I'm always changing. I'm always learning new things. And so what I feel like as a mom is it's so much my job to learn how to learn my kids better and raise them better. And so that has been a really, really fun journey of just seeing what makes them tick and asking questions to my friends. It's kind of like what you were saying. Going to my closest friends and say, what worked with your kids?
Yes.
What did you do?
Yes.
And learning from them. And I've learned so many things. I have so many friends that are in the same stage of life. I know you and I have had many conversations and about different things and just, learning. It's a really fun process. And yes, it's frustrating at times.
Yeah. It's hard.
But it is learning that of like, I was thinking about the other day, God does this for me. He knows that all of his children are different. He designed us so differently. So I get a little tiny taste of what that's like with my kids.
And isn't it so reaffirming and assuring when someone can see the creative stroke of God in your life and point it out to say, you have a natural inkling to do this.
Yeah.
If that has ever been done to me, it's almost brought me to tears because we get very concerned with convincing ourselves out of something positive about us because we're so critical about ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves. But when someone comes by and it's like, I really love seeing God do this in you, that is a gift. And so like, it has me thinking like, you really struck a chord with me when you were talking about, I really want to be intentional about honing in on the interests of my very unique kids and giving them resources to explore. Because I think there's nothing more beautiful than when I see a parent or a mentor or a guardian do something that is not naturally their cup of tea, but they see it in someone else and they move and shift in order to like find out and grab things to help that person. Like I think we were talking about this the other day with my husband. He's crazy talented with music and he's always just had this deep desire for, he's always loved music. And just so much so that, he connects with God on that level, like just singing or playing or writing or like coming up with lyrics. He sees God's beauty in all of that. But the crazy thing is his parents, neither one of them played an instrument. Neither one of them like sang or, you know, like were on a stage at a church or whatever. But how selfless and just such a beautiful image of God is it that they supported him and they saw that in him and they did what they could to put him in the areas and the arenas that he needed to be to develop that passion.
Yeah.
Because I think the same thing about my kids. Like the many different things that my son has been obsessed about. Oh my gosh, like Minecraft, origami, building computers, playing instruments. Like fish. Oh my gosh. And just seeing that and not my initial reaction is to shut it down and be like, I don't want fish in my house. To, okay, he sees it as something that he really wants to dig deep on. And maybe this is his calling in life to be a fish keeper. I don't know. But giving him resources in order to do that.
Yeah, it is fun. And I look up to you a lot in that because I work with your husband and I'm hearing all the time what's
the latest interest of
Yes.
Jude. Yeah.
Yes. And I think because I see a lot of similarities between Jude and my oldest.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really fun because it's my instinct to be like, just do what I know. I know I had two older brothers, just they're just going to be like that.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to be over here.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be like, okay, well, I guess I'm learning how to be a mom of right now it is Minecraft. And so it's like, okay, well, we like Minecraft now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's fine. Ellie was like the complete opposite. My daughter, she recently moved out and went to college, but growing up, she was always into swim. And I kept trying to get like, let's try this. And she's just like, she was just good with swim.
Yeah.
And finally I was like, I just need to accept that. Like because I just didn't want to stifle her. I wanted to make sure that like she tried all the things that she might possibly have, you know, a passion about. And it always just came back to swimming. And so it was kind of the opposite, but you have to see that too. Like, okay, this is her thing and that's okay. And just go with it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to devote all of our time and resources to like like to see where this takes her and how she develops in it.
I think,
But being creative as a parent is so important, I think.
Yes.
And letting them know that it's a safe place. And if they want to say, I don't really like this anymore, it's like, okay, there's no harm in that. That was my parents. I was kind of like, I tried all the sports. I tried everything because I was just like, I'm just going to try everything, see what I like. And everything that I do now is nothing like what I did growing up. But I'm like, okay, well, I found what I like to do and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's really great. Just letting your kids lead the way a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about excellence really quick because here's what happens with excellence sometimes is it becomes about perfectionism.
Yeah.
So let's talk how are excellence and perfectionism different?
I say
I look towards Raina because I'm like, I know you have a little bit
I
of
struggle with
perfectionist.
this. I want everything to be perfect, but I've had to learn like I'm just going to strive for excellence, especially, you know, on Sundays. I want when people come in our building and at the conference and anytime they step in our building, I want them to feel like I want it to be excellent. And I've had to learn that I can strive towards excellence, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, if things aren't just perfect, I have to accept that. And it's been a really hard journey for me to accept that because I want to go around and fluff all the pillows and I want to restock all the mints and I want to do, and I'm like, it's okay. Like it's not, no one's going to die if that pillow is not fluffed.
Yeah.
People are still going to meet Jesus. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I'm putting you on the spot here, but okay, so you're an Enneagram 1. I don't know if you have any Enneagram lovers out there, but you're an Enneagram 1, which
One wing one.
Yeah, which has a big area of excellence and perfectionism. I recently read a book called Self-Defined, Self-to-Lose, and it talked about with each Enneagram number at the beginning, it talked about their desire, the root desire is to, like in God's eyes, is an Enneagram 1 desires that everybody knows God's goodness and his rightness and his perfection. Okay? But we as humans, not being perfect and not always being right, we collect this armor and it can turn into perfectionism. But really our root desire is just to show people how right and good and perfect God is.
Yeah.
But sometimes it comes out as like warped desires.
Yeah.
So I really want to know how you connect to God on this level. Like, how do you gauge perfectionism? And like, how do you know when you're stepping into that world of like, okay, I expected a lot. It didn't meet my expectations. How does God reframe that for you?
Well, for starters, I think what Maria said about the distractions, we're trying to like eliminate distractions. So that's always a key thing for me is I'm always worried that like if someone leaves a coffee cup here or there, it's going to distract someone. It's going to take them away. And I just don't want them to be distracted from whatever it is that God wants to do or say in their lives. And for me, I struggle so much with control. And that's what it all comes back to. It's control. And I need to give God control. And I need to just trust that he's going to take care of it. And I just have to let it go sometimes. So I struggle so much with control. That's how my Enneagram 1, that's definitely the unhealthy side of it, 100%. I want everything, that's where I want things to be perfect. I want to have control of it. I want, I don't know.
So walk us through a few steps that you have to go to relinquish control. Like what goes on in your head? Okay,
Self-talk,
so yeah.
really, just telling myself it's okay.
It's okay.
And that is my like internal constant joke. No one's going to die. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay if there's a Starburst wrapper on the floor on the other side of the foyer and it's driving you crazy. Just let it go. You can get it next time you head that way. But it will, it just drives me crazy. But, and I tell people this all the time. Like, I wish I didn't see those things. Like, I wish I didn't see those weird little things that no one else some people care about, but most people probably don't. But yeah, I think it's just relinquishing control and just letting God move the way he wants to and know that he's in control, not me. And I have to remind myself of that all the time.
It's probably
every day.
a daily self-talk.
for sure.
I was like, my thing is like achievement. Like my life has been marked by achievement, and that's probably deep down the root, probably the root sin for an Enneagram 3 is overachiever, always going, always striving, like future oriented. And what I've learned in that, because there's a lot of perfectionism that's in that, and there's a lot of shame in the perfectionism of that. When I don't achieve or when I don't meet an expectation that I had for myself or others, I tend to spiral into like, I should have done better. I should have done this. I should have. And I hate that voice in my head. And I've really had to work very hard on saying, okay, I should, or we should, or you should is probably something that needs to be eliminated from my vocabulary. Internally. But I think as far as excellence goes with that is that I've had to learn that, and I've said this before on a podcast, that it's not about what I can do and what I can achieve and what I'm striving for. It's about who I am. So the antidote to my excellence is my view of excellence tends to be what I can do. And the antidote is it's who I am. And so I'm going to work harder on the development of who I am over the development of what I can do or what I can achieve or how people are going to be viewing me. So I think like the way that God's character is often like from this book explained within an Enneagram 3 is that we desire to give people hope. And we desire that people understand that God is always future minded, always like moving forward. There's always a next with him. There's always more to discover. There's always deeper facets of him. But we put the armor of it's about me and let me show you what I can do in order to show you what God can do. And it's really like me eliminating myself from the equation and being like, I'm going to be who God created me to be so you can be who God created you to be. So I don't know if you know your number.
I am an 8 wing 9.
Okay.
I could not be less of a perfectionist.
Okay.
Which, but what I have found, because here is, we expect excellence and it's not that I don't want excellence, because I do want excellence. And for me, that has become preparation. And so during the week, I'm like, okay, I have time during the week to prepare things so that I can be Sunday ready. And it's going to take, because I know on a Sunday morning, I'm not going to be able to go through and make everything perfect if I made mistakes during the week. So that's kind of where I land on a lot of that, is just how do I know my nature is to procrastinate. My nature is to be like, it'll be fine. But on a Sunday morning, when that is my heart, is for people not to have distraction. And I know the best way I can do that is to prepare during the week. So that's...
So like what I learned in this book was that Enneagram 8's desire to show people God's power and like how big he is and how in control he is. And sometimes we warp it and we say like, I have the power to do what I need to do and I need to show you what it is. And that can come out sideways a lot of times. But the root desire is that I want to show you how powerful God is and how he can move and how he can accomplish. And so like the excellence coming out of that is the power struggle of like, and it probably goes back to a little bit, all of these go back to control, I think. But yeah, you're right. I think any number on the spectrum probably has a level of perfectionism, but I think the word excellence is a better goal, a better aim, because it allows for some grace. It's a little bit more flexible than rigid, right? Okay, so what I am hearing as we've been talking throughout is, like we said at the beginning, that the end result of all three of these things is connection and vulnerability.
For sure.
Because I think like when I heard you talking about perfectionism, there was a vulnerability in giving up control, right? Giving up perfectionism in my world means that I'm not going to strive for the next. I'm just going to be content with being. And so let's flip it that way a little bit to like, as we are walking into conference season, what are areas, like give us practical steps. And I don't really have any on top of my head, but I'm sure we will as we converse about this. What are some practical steps if the end result is that we're creating connection with God and then we're creating connection with people? What does it look like as we kind of do the hospitality deal? Like, what does it look like to be hospitable in our heart? What does it look like to walk into the conference with excellence or observe the creativity that we see at the conference? And then, because I think here's what I know is that the assumption is that everybody connections happen naturally. And I think that they do to a certain extent, but I think the more of the truth is that they take intention. And so in each one of these worlds, what comes to mind for us is like we're looking forward to the conference and that day and how we can connect with others.
I mean, if you're out there and you're coming to the conference and you're nervous about it, I just would say like on a Sunday, reach out to me or any staff member or send us an email, hello@thex.church, and just say, hey, I'm coming, but I'm nervous. I'd really like to connect with someone up front. I would love to talk to you on a Sunday and just so you have a friendly face to know or introduce you to a few people. But I do think you have to take that bold step. You know,
I can't tell you how many conversations that I've had over 4 years, and I have heard them from you and from your circle that people are genuinely nervous about coming.
I had someone in my circle last time, someone that I've known for years, and she told me after our first circle that she went and sat in the bathroom until the circle started because she didn't want to sit there awkwardly. I'm like, you know me. But it's just, people just get nervous around new people, new environments, and I think they also migrate towards people they kind of know. So it might feel like people are in circles and already have friends, but they really don't.
No.
You know, they're just awkward trying to make friends too. So I know it's crazy and I know it sounds really bold, but don't be afraid. Like when you're in that environment or if you come to the conference, to go up to people and be like, hey, my name's so-and-so. Like just, that's all you have to say. And it'll go from there. It doesn't have to be anything big or
you don't have to tell your life story right there on the spot.
Just be like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm here by myself, you know, and it'll go
because
from there.
9 times out of 10, you're going to be introducing yourself to another person who's saying, I didn't come with anybody, or I only came with my friend. Will you come sit with us? That's another step. Let me just interject with that. If you are coming to the conference with a group of girls that you know that are signed up and like you guys have history and you guys, you know, have known each other for a while, please, please, please open up. Open up your circle because there is nothing more alienating for a woman to walk in and just assume that everybody has their group and their people. And I can't tell you what it's meant to me before standing awkwardly or looking a little bit awkward and someone said, can you like come sit with us? And you don't even have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just sit there because I'm sure over the course of the day of the conference, something will come up that you can at least talk about.
Exactly.
I think I'm very much like, I want to stay in my shelf. I don't know people. I am an extrovert, but I feel like I come across like an introvert a lot of times. Like I am shy out the gate. And so it is I am that person. It's like, I'll go find somebody that looks familiar to me or that I've had a conversation with and kind of go like stand by them and they'll, bring me in. And, and that's one thing is just, I have a lot of friends that are very extroverted people. And so they are very good about bringing people in and all of that. So don't feel nervous. I feel like in those environments when it's all women, you want to assume everyone's got to click. They've grown up with these people. They've been friends forever. It's like,
that's not
no,
the case.
they really haven't. And some of them, and you think about on a Sunday morning, you're usually coming with your kids or your spouse or whatever. And so you're not as vulnerable.
You kind of feel like a fish out of water for a minute when you don't have, like, I would say, like, a lot of times my kids are my comfort. So I can walk in a door and just like turn to one of them and talk to them and not have to worry about talking to anybody else.
Right.
But I do think that it stretches you to that next level, like you said, of vulnerability. Because I know for a fact that a lot of women come on a Sunday morning with their husbands, with their kids, would bring their in-laws or their parents. And because I'm guilty of this, I'll bring a guest or I'll sit by a guest, and the way I worship is different. When someone else is on the line, right? So I don't want to look like a weirdo. I don't want to raise my hands because I don't want them to feel like they have to raise their hands. And so I'm very I have the tendency to be very conservative in my worship. And when I'm at the Inspired conference, like, nobody has their people here and it's just me. Like I can actually not have any distractions when I'm worshiping. And I was talking to Trey about this, about different environments and when worship what worship looks like in different environments. Cause we had Exco this week and that atmosphere is different than a Sunday morning. And Inspired worship, the atmosphere is different than on a Sunday morning. It's because it's just, there's different people there. There's different expectations of you. And so I know that's a huge thing, but it takes a step.
It does.
Yeah. But just don't assume that everyone else has their people. Cause like you said, most of us are in that boat. Most of us at this conference are not going to have all of our people around us. So we're all in the same boat and we're all open to having a conversation. And I want to hear about your kids. I want to hear about your job. Like, let me know, you know? So just remember that.
And I think that, like you said, you talked about the bold step is just reaching out to say, hey, I'm coming by myself. And then I'm almost confident that throughout the day, if you continue to take those bold steps, you'll end up in a place you never imagined.
Yeah, for sure.
Meaning, like, the first step could be showing up. The next bold step could be introducing yourself. The next bold step could be, sharing a little bit of your story. The next bold step could be getting a phone number for a meeting during the week. And the next bold step could be sharing your story in a very intimate, holy setting across, from someone eye to eye. You just never know where it's gonna take you. And it doesn't mean that you have to be fast and best friends by the end of it. It's just, I've opened up myself. I've created a hospitable environment in my heart, and I want them to feel seen, and I also want to be seen. It goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else on your end or your end that comes to mind?
I don't think so.
I know it's scary, but just be praying and show up expecting God to move, because He will if you let Him.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad that you joined us today. Come back next week and we'll have another episode for you.